Trying to keep wrestling fresh is hard. There's so much of it on TV each and every week that coming up with new ideas is sometimes impossible. I mean, with WWE alone, you have a minimum of 7 hours if you want to watch Raw, SmackDown, NXT and 205 Live, and that is a huge amount of content for anyone to get through. If you do, however, it's likely you will have seen everything, so any new innovations WWE can add is going to be wonderful. That is, of course, until they too then fall foul to the curse of overexposure. That's the cycle we find ourselves in, and it goes on and on and on and on. I'm Simon from What Culture. This is 5 wrestling innovations that did as much harm as good. Number 5, Spanish announce table destruction. At WWF Survivor Series 1995, Diesel knocked Bret Hart off the apron and sent him careering through the Spanish announce table. It was shocking in and of itself, because it was a company first, and was even more awe-inspiring given that it occurred during the New Generation era, where events were meant to be all peaches and cream. From here, as we know, this has been watered down to ridiculous degrees. People say the first such banging of heads happened when Vince Russo wanted to see the spot used all the time, including for Undertaker to smash Kane through one of these on the post-Bad Blood episode of Monday Night Raw. That would have been mad, of course, because the choice of action they did choose, actually waiting for Taker to lay a hand on his brother, worked out much better. By 2017, however, this announce table has been destroyed countless times. Every major stipulation match invariably makes use of it, and while it has just about retained its awe, it's been done to death. It's often difficult to recall how often it has been used. It's now basically a shortcut for drama. It does make sense given it's right there and not stashed away under the ring, which is always a bit silly, but the impact would resonate far more if it were used more sparingly. Try and think of a pay-per-view this year that hasn't used it. They're few and far between. Number 4, finisher kickouts. I mean, you don't even need me to tell you about this one. In modern day WWE, the only way to make a match a classic is to have both wrestlers kick out of each other's finishers 45,890 times. If you don't do that, forget it. You're not getting close to 5 stars and your whole existence is pointless. This wasn't always the case though. Steve Austin and The Rock kicked out of everything at WrestleMania X7 and it created jaw-dropping tension in one of the finest matches the WWE had ever promoted, but it was justified. This was the biggest show ever and they were 2 of the company's biggest stars. Plus it felt different then and in the long run it didn't water down either the stunner or the rock bottom. Fast forward to today and the opposite is true. You already know before a big fight that a finisher is going to be kicked out of, and that as the weeks go by, that finisher isn't going to feel like a finisher anymore. Take the AA. One AA never defeats anybody anymore, so John Cena calling it a finisher is stupid to begin with. That takes all the drama out of a contest because you now expect it to take a few. There's also a knock-on effect to this because when a move like this does have the expected damage, like Lesnar winning with 1 F5 against Braun Strowman, we all feel like we've been duped. It's a lose-lose situation. It just doesn't feel major anymore, and that's a huge shame as when it's used right, it's an excellent tool. Number 3, Money in the Bank. The Money in the Bank concept was a triumph. It allowed WWE to make use of those ready for a push, and the structure of the match itself guaranteed excitement. Even today when the match has been watered down, the quality of each is still exceptionally high. Wrestlers raise their game when going for that briefcase. Beyond the match itself, it offered WWE a shortcut to crown a new world champion and added an extra dramatic wrinkle to most title programs. Thing is, while it was beyond cool when Edge did it, that formula was soon drilled into the ground. The briefcase was soon treated as a star maker in itself, when in fact, the rated R superstar had been positioned as a prospective headliner months before he ever cashed in. That's why when CM Punk won it out of nowhere in 2008 and Jack Swagger did the same in 2010, it wasn't enough to make them feel like main event stars because WWE wasn't ready to treat them as such. Today you kinda know what to expect with the Money in the Bank winner, which probably means it's time to come up with a new way to approach it. After all, if you now expect the unexpected, it's time to go back to the expected. I don't even know what that means. Number 2, diving headbutts. Harley Race invented the diving headbutt, much to his regret. It shortened his career, but the successors who adopted it fared much worse. The Dynamite Kid, for example, paralysed himself as a result of his unbelievably intense ring style, and he used the diving headbutt all the time. The move worked as well as it did because it looked brutal, and it was literally an aerial assault that fused showmanship with believability. It came at a cost though, because there was no real way to protect yourself, and that's straight up not good. There's more evidence to this too, as Chris Benoit and Daniel Bryan borrowed the move in pursuit of realism. We both know how their individual stories ended. You can't say it was just the diving headbutt, of course, but it did contribute, and in that sense it's just not something we need to see anymore. There's no going back with this one either, as no one's health is worth a move. CTE is all over the shop at the moment and is only going to increase in that regard. So just ban this and let's move on with our wrestling lives. Number 1, the King Road style of All Japan Pro Wrestling. In the 1990s, All Japan Pro Wrestling booker Giant Baba devised a new in-ring ethos. He crafted a new style fit for kings, and it was a philosophy which saw the likes of Misawa and Kobashi ascend to the main event stratosphere in a series of intercorrelated matches, each more brutal than the next. That these matches took place in Japan meant they were stiffer than anything promoted in North America at the time, but it kick-started a trend which did add to the in-ring drama, but also subtracted years from careers. During this period, there were some horrific bumps you wouldn't believe, including incredibly dangerous backdrop suplexes to the head. This did lead to a bunch of 5-star classics never bettered by any promotion to this day, but it also ended in unspeakable tragedy. Misawa, after enjoying years of this reckless style, died in the middle of the ring on 13th of June 2009. His neck had disintegrated through wear and tear to such a sickening degree that it separated entirely from his head. That is no price worth paying, meaning such a style most certainly did more harm than good. Know of any other wrestling innovations that did as much harm as good? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. You can even follow What Culture on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE or read more articles on WhatCulture.com. My name is Simon from What Culture, and I will talk to you again soon.